We left off on cluster B, and we're starting now with histrionic personality disorder. Cluster B, of course, being characterized by erratic and dramatic thought processes and behavior. Now, histrionic personality disorder, another interesting one, characterized by dramatic and excessive emotionality. So highly emotional. There can be temper tantrums, there can be hysterical crying at seemingly much more minor things than would normally bring on a response like that. So this kind of drama, right? These are your drama kings, drama queens. We're going to see this high need for attention also we saw it with borderline, we're going to see it with narcissistic. But remember this really dramatic emotions, drama queen, drama king, is going to help you keep this one apart. So really very high attention seeking. Okay. People with this disorder are very unhappy, very uncomfortable even if they're not the center of attention. It's like something is wrong here. They really have a high need of being the center of attention. And oftentimes they will use their physical appearance to draw attention. So it might be really unusual hair color or haircut or style. It might be unusual clothing, a really unusual makeup, hey, anything like that. They tend to be self-centered and overly concerned with their own appearance. Okay. Oftentimes sexually provocative. So it might be that they flirt a lot, and or it might be that they wear a lot of revealing clothing, or might be makeup to the point of being really gaudy. Hey, one thing that's really interesting about histrionic personality disorders, how do I put this? It's not unusual for someone with this particular personality disorder to say something that really catches your attention that sounds like this could be a really interesting conversation. And I'm thinking of a situation where I heard something said by somebody who had been diagnosed with this about the last election. And it was a statement that really made me curious about where they were coming from, how their arguments supported it, what kind of evidence they knew of that supported it. It was super interesting. But when I questioned them about it, there was nothing there. And this is not unusual with this personality disorder that, for instance, they might see a headline somewhere and remember it and think it sounds really intelligent or interesting, and they're going to throw it out there at times, but they don't have further knowledge to back it up. There's also something else that's really difficult when you think about it. If this is somebody you love, maybe one of your children in the future might be diagnosed with this, and to think how difficult this could be for you. Oftentimes they have a tendency to think that other people really like to be around them. In other words, they're not reading other people properly. Because that's usually not the case. In fact, other people oftentimes find them to be irritating. But they tend to think that people really find them interesting and exciting. Now, narcissistic personality disorder, another very interesting one. I'll tell you something. If you ever meet somebody with this personality disorder, you will probably really like them at first. They have a tendency to come across as very charming until you run into any difficulty with them. And this is not difficult. You don't have to try usually to run into some difficulty with them. They have a grandiose self-concept, so they really truly believe that they are something special, more special than other people. and they have a super high need for admiration. Now, any of you have studied the self concept in another class more thoroughly know that you can have a high or a low self concept. You also can have a stable or an unstable one. So you can have a high one that is unstable, and that's what we're looking at with the case of narcissistic personality disorder. So they have a really grandiose, very high self-construct, but they need the validation constantly from outside. So they need excessive admiration from others to help them keep it that high, and they have a real need to keep it that high. Okay. They tend to be self-centered, manipulative. They can be very manipulative, and they lack empathy for others. They can be very callous. Okay. They can take advantage and use others and really have a sense of entitlement, like they have a right to. Okay. And if they don't feel that others are respecting them properly, in other words, giving them that real high admiration, okay, they can get very angry. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about something really minor here. In other words, it can be something so minor that, let's say that they recommend a particular bank and then find out you did not switch to use that bank. That might be enough to set them off. But if they feel that you are not respecting and admiring them enough, they can become very angry to the point sometimes of rage, just take off in rage. And they can be very vindictive, and again, without this empathy for the pain that they might be causing others, with this total sense of entitlement. Okay. People who are narcissistic tend to surround themselves with friends who are less popular. Why do you think? And if you guessed, it's because they want to feel special. You're right. Hey, they also tend to seek very high status partners. Okay. So when we say high status, what we're talking about for men is they tend to seek really beautiful, exceptionally beautiful and or young women. And for women, they tend to seek men with exceptional money or power and or power. And they tend to idealize their partner, put them up on a pedestal. Okay. But then when that person fails to live up to, these unreasonable standards, they can get very angry and dump them or divorce them. So not uncommon for somebody who has this disorder to have had a whole series of relationships and or have been married many times. Also, they will readily dump one partner if a higher status partner becomes available to them. This is not unusual with narcissistic personality disorder, and also leads to this pattern we see of a number of marriages often. Okay. I'll tell you something else that's really interesting. When we bring people into the laboratory and have them write essays, what we find is, first off, very small percentage of the population that has narcissistic personality disorder. And we'll be looking at prevalence later on in these lecture segments, but not unusual when we know who they are, right? But we don't tell the coders. They just read the essays and we tell them what to look for. There is a way you can spot them, right? And that is they tend to use certain words more often in their speech and or their writing. So I want you to try to guess, what do you think those words are? Okay, you can pause the video if you want and try to guess it first. And the answer is, the words are I, me, my, those types of pronouns referring to the self.